isa pang episode. Hello Philippines and hello world. Mabuhay! Welcome back to a limited podcast series which aims to share to the electorate how ANFREL observes and monitors elections from the perspective of the people behind and in front of the International Election Observation Mission. This is part of ANFREL's outreach efforts for its International Election Observation Mission to the 2025 national and local elections in the Philippines. For the fourth and final episode, yes, you heard that right. It's the final episode of the podcast series. As we said, this is just a limited series, no? But for this episode, we invited some of the ANFREL International Election Observers to share their experiences on the field during their deployment to different areas of the Philippines. I'm your host, John Antiquera, and we are live via ANFREL's Facebook and LinkedIn pages, as well as via ANFREL's YouTube channel. I will shift first my camera to see the guests. With us today are four ANFREL International Election Observers. Please say hi to everyone.
Hi.
Yes. Carrying the opening question from episode 2, instead of me introducing each of you, I'd like to ask you guys to introduce yourselves by first telling us your name, second, the country where you're from, and third, answer this particular question. Recalling your first few times voting, what was your main motivation for participating in the elections in your country? Let's start with Pija.
Yes, my name
Yes.
is Laddawan Tantivitayapitak. You call me John. It's a nickname. I'm from Thailand.
Okay.
And the motivation
For voting, yes.
for doing monitoring voting. Since I have been doing this since 1972.
Okay.
Sorry, 1992. That is 72. That is 92. So, because at the time there's a coup that Thailand is very fond of military coup.
Yes.
Not like here. It's okay. But after this military coup, the Prime Minister Anantanjarachun, who is a very intellectual one, tried to do something about it. So he set up this poll watch committee. So I joined the poll watch committee at the time by Prime Minister order. And since then, I have been working at that time as the assistant of Secretary General. And since that time, I go on. And last experience, I've been with also Election Commission for almost 15 years before my retirement, mostly to working on monitoring and encourage people for participation. So it's more or less like it's just in my brain now after some time. So it's very important that free and fair election has been empowered, especially in the country of ASEAN. Okay. I have been joining ANFREL that aware of all this obstacle to democracy of the people. So, it's something maybe to mention also that PNET, now we call our organization as PNET, is also founding member of ANFREL
yes.
at that time. We are starting together, we move on together, and we will accomplish the task in the future.
Yes, that's true. I agree with you, John. Thank you. How about you, Vibha?
Yes. Hi, my name is Vibha. I'm a research associate at Center for the Study of Developing Societies. It's a research organization based in Delhi, India. And looking back at the first time I voted, which was long back, I'm old. So I don't think, honestly, I don't think it was about my right or duty. It was just about the excitement.
Yes.
It was excitement of being officially involving myself in some official matters. And it was like a milestone in one's life. Like, you have your driving license, you have your voter license, all that. But of course, with time, my motivation to vote also evolved. And now it's more about even my one vote counts.
Yes.
And It's about vote efficacy. It's about it's my voice for the incumbent, whether in favor or against, and it's a voice about their performance in the last 5 years. So yes, what started off as just excitement, and it now is more serious, and it's my voice for or against the government every time I vote. Yes.
That's good to know. How about you, Ernie?
Great. Okay. Hi, my name is Ernie Lee Chia. I am an associate policy researcher in CCW, Citizen Congress Watch. I'm from Taiwan. I'm probably on the younger side on this panel, so my memory of my first time voting is quite recent, just
Like what years
ago. Actually, my first time voting is not on something that actually has significant impact in our policy, because it is a referendum in Taiwan. It is a package referendum, which doesn't really have enforcement power, but the government respect the referendum. And because they are referendums, they're mostly platform-based. It was about same-sex marriage, about our nuclear power plants, and I find it quite important to vote on it. Although I must say, I lament the first time I couldn't vote on the presidential election. I was a few months out being able to vote on that.
How about you?
Hi, I'm Tharindu Abeyrathna. I'm from Sri Lanka.
Maybe move a bit there so that we can
Oh.
see.
All right.
Getting cozy.
So,
John, can you move here a bit? Can you move here a bit closer to me? Yes, that's the right blocking. Let's go.
So, yeah, I'm Tharindu Abeyrathna. I'm from Sri Lanka. Apart from the observation, I also work with ANFREL as the senior program officer for campaign and advocacy. I think for last maybe 7 to 8 years. Yeah, I was fortunate enough to observe elections. But if you really, if I really look at the past in the back, as Vibha also mentioned, maybe the first election it was excitement. But I remember when I was a kid, those days, elections are always in Sri Lanka really in the festive mood.
Yeah.
So we had a habit, the election day night. So all the entire family get together and then we watch the election result. So usually the newspaper on that day, so they give like additional sort of a copy that, so you can watch in the TV and then you can fill out the numbers by yourself. So I still have some of those, the hard copies that I used to fill out.
Yes.
So being engaged with that, I also used to collect when I was in the school some of the manifestos and then when the first time, I remember it was a local election. So yeah, it was with the excitement. But after that, like I think from the second election itself, like I was in the university and then I was also volunteering ANFREL as a local election observer. So it's been there. The engagement and then as Vibha also earlier mentioned, yeah, it was like later more a responsibility as a citizen. And then I actually tried to vote most of the elections as much as possible. For last maybe 10 years, maybe missed couple of, including this one, the last election 2 weeks ago. I was here.
Because you're here.
Didn't go to Sri Lanka to vote for the local elections. Yes.
We're sorry about that. Duty calls.
Yeah.
Sorry about that.
We're sorry about that. Of course, we promote election observation and voting itself, but we're sorry about that. That's why I said sorry. But let's go to your experience observing elections in the Philippines, since this is what the episode is about. But I wanted to start with early because I believe this is your first international election observation. Yes. Can you share with us how your experience was observing elections in the Philippines, and if you can share like anecdotes or stories from your deployment? Also tell us where you are deployed also.
Okay. I am deployed in Negros Occidental and then 2 cities in Western Visayas. So specifically, I was in Bacolod, then Rojas City, and then Iloilo City for my election day observation there. Being the first time observing, so at a risk of sounding very cliche, it was eye-opening Yeah, I've always been active in understanding politics. It's my studies, after all, but I never actually observed another country's election system before. And I heard about, say, counting machines for electoral ballots, but it was never actually something that impacted my life. So I didn't, understand it or go too in depth into understanding it. Because in Taiwan, we only do manual counting longest time, as far as I can remember. And I think that's one thing about this election that really impacted my my insight and broadened my perspective on things. It's the electoral counting machine. And to share a story wise, I think one night we were out observing one of the campaign rallies in Makol City, and after finishing up inside, listening to what their candidates had to say, we circled outside trying to interview some of the people outside. Many of them are wearing the T-shirts that's been given to them, and so we decided to go further out, and we encountered a first-time voter, a young lady with her mother, who's I think motorly impaired, so they had to stay on the outside listening into the big loud microphones from the inside, and they're sharing with me is quite impactful on helping me understand the vibe of the election here. As for her, the first-time voter, she was very ambivalent because she told me many of the policies that she read online just very similar to her, and she really wanted to have candidates that provide something different, and the feel of people wanting change to their cities and their local politics is really leaves a great impression on me, that's for sure. And as for her mother on the side, she is very grateful to COMELEC's new rule for early voting hours. She explicitly said she's very grateful to them. Yeah. So that's interesting how the commission COMELEC gets so involved in electoral processes and I'd say making announcement up to the day of the election. Compared to my experience in Taiwan, I'm not too sure the official name or translation is, but our election commission, they're not, as a voter, you don't feel their presence as much as it is here, that's for sure.
Okay, that's good to know. But let's hear from the more experienced election observers. Of course, I know this is not the first time that you've observed elections with ANFREL. I'm not sure if with other organizations, but I know you've observed elections with ANFREL before. So can you share with us, Vibha, let's start with you, your experience observing. Can you tell us about where you were deployed, and if you can share some anecdotes about the deployment?
So I covered three locations. One was Sarangini, the other one was Davao City, and then Central Santos. So my experience was fascinating. Fascinating because I come from India, where national and state elections are not held simultaneously. So we have national elections which are held over weeks and sometimes months in different parts, in different phases.
Yes.
And also state elections are again not held simultaneously. So every state has their own election cycles. We might have 2 states going for polls in this year and then 2 in next year. So they all have different election cycles. So it was fascinating because voters had to choose for so many. So you choose your Senate member, you choose a member of Congress, and then your mayor, vice mayor. So much. It was more intense.
Yes.
And all in one day. So, when I think about it, when I compare it with India, it's really intense. And also for the voters. So hats off to the voters because, you're selecting so many people. And then also, I don't know, at least for me back in India, like national issues might be different compared to the issues which I might have in my state.
Yes.
So, and how when you're voting on the same day together for all these things, how they actually differentiate between what issues are important for, say, while I'm voting for a Senate member compared to somebody when I'm voting for a Congress, somebody from the Congress. Yes, I have a lot of stories to tell from the field, but talking about one, I was doing this focus group discussion amongst the first-time voters and youth in General Santos. And I was talking about, all of them were very excited to vote. There was this excitement, yes, we're going to vote. None of them said that we won't be voting. So I probed further whether, this participation is limited to just voting or whether they are just generally interested in politics, how aware they are, and also other forms of political participation like, say, attending campaigning, meetings, and just going through the pamphlets or what are the leaders promising. So I posed this question to them, and there was this one first-time voter. He said, but that's not where elections happen. Elections don't happen on the ground. Elections happen on social media. That's the battleground.
Okay.
So he said, it's the social media where elections are happening. I don't want to waste my time attending rallies, listening to long speeches of these politicians. I'll rather go to social media, follow the influencer, and just have like abstract or whatever was said in the speeches. And they also, it seemed that they do not have much trust in the candidates and the news anchor. And the trust lies solely on influencers and social media. So social media definitely is like playing a big role when it comes to youth or the first time voters. And it's similar to what we see in India as well. Yes.
That's interesting, no? The shift in the sources of information,
Yes.
especially for the younger generation.
Yes.
That's good to know. John,
Yes,
the same question.
the same question.
Yes.
Yes, because I don't know Tagalog, so I did not follow social media very well. But my experience where I have been deployed, I was deployed in Toxakon, Abe, and Cameroon Sur. That is in Biko region. Naka is my last election day to monitor the election, to observe the election, not monitor, but I will try to focus. But in Sosokon, I think the first day is very interesting. When we came out from the hotel, because we also always aware after we step out from the hotel, we were just observing around, and there's a lady standing, inviting people to join just the next door to our hotel. So my assistant approached her, what she's doing, what is going on there. It's the political party meeting. Oh, I said, yes, okay, that's good. I like to join. So I think because the candidate, this is a candidate that stepped out from that room, the next room for the hotel, the next building. I think he is a new kind of politician. So I shake hand and introduce myself. So I like to also, yes, come in. And they also have another candidate also. But there are one candidate, when I step inside, he looked very intense. He looked very aware. Become very serious. I did not observe at that time. I just checked hand. I like to observe. There are quite a number of young people, also several age, of course, young and children also. So and they starting the process. They are speaking about their policy, whatever, why they are being candidate, what they want to do. And then suddenly I observe at the corner of the room, there are bags, a lot of bags, red bags. Bags. And they have many things, and the box with the t-shirts. So I just observe. I bring myself near to that corner.
Yes.
But I'm not too really, to be able to interfere the process, the meeting process.
Yes.
Just try to bring my chair there, comfortable, observing that meeting. And by the way, I just look, look what is that back.
Yeah.
And then there's a man with money bag. carry bag, and
Sling bag.
Yeah.
Okay.
and you try to take something inside each bag. So what is that? So I try to take a photo.
Yeah.
Selfie.
Yeah.
So I think that is the money because it's the first time they bring that, and next they also have carry a small bag and take another things distribute in each bag. So I thought that I will observe when they deliver it and took some picture, but it seems that they are just prolonged. The meeting is just prolonged. They have a break, and after break, and there's a certain candidate that they are quite aware of our president. So I think if I stay on, maybe that will have some confrontation unnecessarily, and we just observing. See, we are not monitoring. So I say hi, and I think they are happy
Okay.
that I think in general, when we observing around, vote buying is just something in their way of life during the election day. I talk to everyone, all stakeholders, corporate, police, official, voter, candidate themselves. You see, it's happened.
Okay.
And if you don't give it, maybe they will have some bad feeling from the voter because maybe some they will ask you. I think this is understandable or stakeholder that this happening in during this economic crisis of ASEAN of the world. I even when we interviewed in another incident, I interviewed this candidate, and then approaching people are surrounding because it's his house. There are voter came and talk and gets and shaking hand with the candidate or whatever. And then there one guy just came in and complaining with something. So I asked my assistant, what he is complaining. I don't have enough. I mean, I did not get enough. They only give me 500. I should have 1,000. Yes, they are complaining. So, okay, understandable. And they're just laughing. Okay, and this is going on. So I think it's very important that people have to aware. And PPCRB also try very hard to advocate this idea of, okay, you take the money, but don't vote for them because it will become vicious circle. If you select the corrupt one, of course, they will get your money returned in the future.
Okay.
So I think that's a way that we try to improve the situation of the election here.
Okay. I guess I would just have to note that vote buying is of course an election offense, and that the Election Commission has a committee on contra bigay, which is against vote buying. So if people have seen incidents of vote buying, they can report to COMELEC about these things.
And they can be disqualified.
Yes, because it is an election offense.
And this is also happening in Thailand, and it just not only.
Yes. Tharindu.
Oh yeah. I was deployed in two cities. One is Zamboanga, where I had a kind of a warm up before going to BAM in Cotabato. Actually, it's a quite experience. So I also remember during the briefing, right? So whenever these the facilitators come, they like into some point like say, oh, who's going to BAM? Who's going to BAM? I was quite nervous, but I knew it's going to be a good experience. It's quite different the situation, and then the way of conducting election is quite different from the rest of the country. Especially they have special challenges. I also I read a little bit about the history before going there, but when you really go there, you really get to experience, how this politics is happening in the ground. So most of the people, when you talk to them, to summarize the politics in BAM, especially. So how they summarize it, it's all about the guns, goons, and gold. So yeah, I mean, it's very interesting how peace process is happening. For these stakeholders are navigating through the challenges that they are facing through the peace process. How this process is affecting the politics and also the elections in the region. Also, it's fascinating to hear different opinions from different stakeholders, including voters, the academics, and then the civil society organizations, and the politicians itself. So yeah, it was a really nice experience. If I talk about one of the a story, right?
Yes.
So the election day, we went to one of the biggest polling center in Cotabato city. So there were five different um, barangays located in this particular polling center. A lot of polling precincts. So it's a very big compound. So one side to the other side, you have to walk. It takes some time. So we finished one side, and then we went to a couple of prisons, and then we were walking to the other side. That you have to go through a quite long building to enter to the other side. So we were walking, and then I saw suddenly, like when you walk, sometimes you just like look down, right? And then I saw one guy is holding a bottle, like a soft drink bottle, glass bottle. And then instead of holding it like this, he was holding like this. And then I was like, oh, cute. And then I looked at the other people around, and then like you see more, and then like they are covering their faces, and then the other side is the police.
Yeah.
So it's sort of we caught into a situation between the group of people and the police, and then I looked back the interpreter, and then he also saw the same, and then we were communicating through our eyes. They're like, okay, let's move away. Yeah, I mean, it's sort of a unique challenge, especially in that particular area when it comes to the security the BAM is facing. But I think it's hopefully it will improve further. And then it is also the October, the elections in BAM also happening. We hope that this kind of situations will improve, and then finally we'll be able to have a more peaceful election in that particular region. Yeah, I'm really glad I was able to witness the environment in that area.
So the next time that ANFREL observes the BARM election, we can refer to the experience of Tharindu. Okay, moving on to my next question. I wanted to ask you about how the reception is of the voters, of the different electoral stakeholders that you engaged with you as election observers. Have you encountered any challenges in your deployments? Let's start with you, John.
I think I was very welcome from all, even the regional commonwealth, provincial commonwealth, city commonwealth, the EB, the election board, the voter, the indigenous people. I think they are happy that we are around, that we observing and we try to help, as I said, in our own way, in the observation way. Even in one of the media that I interviewed, he gave a lot of information what is going on, but also his perspective of how we're going to come with a solution of what is going on during the election. We also have a very nice exchange idea. But in certain context, I think he is quite not very much hopeful surrounding this all this new of vote buying, and in some area of people, like Baba said, that some threat is going on. So in certain area also have many certain intimidation and quite a serious happening. That in his context, that maybe he did not have much perspective on how to come up with this situation of to have free and fair election. But the interesting also that I met one of the officials, quite at the high official level in local area, and he's very informative. He telling us about one news that there's a crime happening in the village, and he in the news it's just only crime happening. He just said this is not election related. He point out that this is election related because the people concerned are backed up by certain politicians. He is in circle, in inner circle, so he has information. So he said that this is happening. There's because of conflict of dynasty, the election is very strong. So I think that kind of information that give me some insight also that how we can overcome dynasty values. In Thailand we also have, but not very much similar dynasty. But dynasty is also, I think, way of obstacle to democracy, of how we're going to have progressive democracy, particularly democracy elective democracy. So maybe they have to sort things out in the future. That is from our sharing. I think it's good that government officer also concerned, government also concerned, voter also concerned, not only observation or civil society, but all parties concerned of what is happening and how to work it out to overcome. I think it takes time, but I think future will be in not in our hand, not in my hand, maybe, but in the young hand. Yeah. Thank you.
Yes. How about you, Vibha?
Yes, I think she's correct in saying whether it was Comelec or the candidates, voters, civil society organizations, they all were very welcoming. And I don't really felt at any moment that they saw us as a critique, as somebody who's coming to criticize. Rather, they all thought that we were working for at least the Comelec and the civil society organization, and to an extent the party workers, that we all looking at the larger functioning of democracy and strengthening democracy at large. The only time I saw some kind of discomfort was when I was attending these big, massive rallies, because that too, the people were not hostile, but the managing committee were a little uncomfortable with our presence, because probably they were, they had an idea that we're just not looking and observing at the rallies and speaking to voters, but we're also looking at the expenses, and we could see the kind of arrangements that have been done. So they were a little wary, probably because of the, there's a cap on how much you can spend.
Yes.
So that's the only place where I felt that we were not that welcome.
Okay. Bernie?
Okay. I think I will echo what the more experienced observers had said before. I think stakeholders such as voters in general and NGOs, leaders, youth leaders, Comelec themselves, and many of the election-related government officials like the Department of Education and the electoral boards are all very welcoming and very open and candid about their situation on the ground, and especially when it comes to vote buying or other types of abuse of government resources. I think the biggest challenge for me, at least, has been trying to get to the candidates, especially local candidates. They're busy running campaigns, so that's quite understandable. But it's hard to observe a coherent picture or the full picture, because you can potentially only get to observe one side of the aisle, and you don't get to hear, say, the incumbent or the opposition's story. And that's same goes to attending rallies as well. One time, I believe it was in Bacolod, I was attending the rally of the incumbents. I was outside trying to interview people before we can head in and listen to their rallies themselves. I asked one of the staff, probably a barangay leader or a barangay captain, I think, and she was so happy that someone's coming for an interview. She smiled and led us towards the crowd. She went to talk to, I presume, a superior of her manager, probably, older middle-aged man. And when she introduced us to the man looked at us, frowned, he whispered something towards the woman, and you can see in real time, her smile just dropped, went away, and she started looking at us with suspicion. And of course, we want to be transparent, we're international observers, here's what we want to ask, and they simply shut down, say, yeah, we're not going to talk to you, you're not authorized, we can't, we're busy, and we were left to observe in the back of the room, and then I tried to, that's why I circled outside of the periphery to interview people, because I was afraid that they are going to get me more trouble if I started interviewing people next to or near the entrance area. So that's probably the hardest challenge of interviewing a candidate. I can share an additional thing is securing a candidate is very hard, and it's kind of funny and an interesting story, but it's not too eventful. Is this in the second city, in Rojas City, the only candidate I managed to interview was a happenstance. It was a by chance thing, because I went to interview one of the media outlet, the radio station in the region, and just so happened the appointment they had before me was their their interview program with a candidate, and they were coming out of the room. They were talking about candidacy, and I perked up. I was like, "Hey, you're a candidate here. You're running for provincial board. Can I please have 5 minutes, 10 minutes with you? Let's do an interview real quick." And with a little finagling, we managed to get one interview out of an impromptu situation.
Yes. I understand the experience with the challenge of getting the candidates for an interview. But of course, from the experience of the observers, everyone really tried to reach out to every side of the spectrum. But it is quite challenging, I understand that as well. But I also wanted to go to the point when you mentioned that people thought that we were part of COMELEC. Of course, the ANFREL's mission is an independent observation of the elections. We're not necessarily connected with COMELEC or in any way. This is an independent undertaking to really assess the situation and the electoral landscape in the country. Yes. Tharindu.
Yeah. I think as we always say, there's no perfect election anywhere in this world. So always there is room for improvement. That's why we are here as observers, right?
Yes.
Yeah, I mean, when you one of the most fascinating things that I observe when you talk to especially young voters, so they are quite outspoken. You also see two types, like some young people, they are not interested, they don't want to, I also met a couple of young people, because we went to few universities and they tried to talk to the university students, and then they were not even registered, so not interested. But majority of the young people, they are very enthusiastic, and then they know what they are talking about, and then they know who to vote. And also, they know how to select their candidates. So they were so they were not like one of the young voter that we talked to. They were like, no, I'm not listening, or I'm not following what my parents say. I have my own opinion. I have no own way of evaluating the candidates. So I take my own ways, and then I have the people who I want to vote. And then that's, I think, one of the most hopeful when you talk to them. It's so the future will be better. And then they also look for more accountability. And then they know the challenges that we talk about, when it comes to money politics, when it comes to vote buying, abuse of state. So they are aware about it, and then they really want to change this particular culture. So I think as state election stakeholders, we also have to create more awareness among these people, so that we will have future better elections, just in the Philippines and also across the region as well.
Okay. For my next question, because we are about to release an interim report, so we don't want to preempt that. So without providing any analysis about your observation, but reflecting on your experience observing the elections in the Philippines, what are your key takeaways from your experience? Let's start with you, Tharindu, this time.
I think the key takeaway about Philippines, the innovation. The innovation happens here. So you see, the Philippines is one of the first countries to introduce this vote automated vote counting machine. And then this time, the Philippines is the first one to introduce the online voting. So that's one of the area where many countries, to struggle to enfranchise the people who are outside the country. So I think that's one of the key takeaway. We have to give the credit to COMELEC and then the other officials for taking those bold moves to to upgrade the system. And also another takeaway, of course, you have to constantly work on with the stakeholders to improve the system. So as again, something that we see, especially in COMELEC, they are very much open to work with the civil society to have the discussion to improve the system. So we also see, because we work with some other countries, sometimes you see they don't like to have dialogue, and then maybe it's not really that they don't want to have it, and then maybe they are not really comfortable. But at the end of the day, it is also when you work with those stakeholders, especially the civil society observers. So that's also for your different, right? Whenever sometimes another thing that I also from the people here in the there's nobody is losing election.
Oh.
So if someone loses the election, they say, "Oh, I didn't lose. Maybe it's a fraud." Something like that. So, but in a way, in the situations like that, when you are open, when you are transparent, so the civil society and then the other stakeholders stand behind you. So I think those two are the key takeaways for me about this election.
Okay, so without sounding too redundant, of course, the voting machine has been eye-opening for me. Although I must note that at least my expectation was high, it took quite a bit of time to finishing the counting procedure of voting machines, and that's one key takeaway here, number one. And number two is how enthusiastic the voters are. And I think the general turnout rate is 70 to 90%, depending on the region. That's quite high for any democracy, especially in the registering type of voting system. So that's number two. And most people want to vote. I think all of the people I interviewed, or voters I interviewed, only one of them said they weren't going to vote. And that's not because they don't want to vote. It's because they didn't have the resources to travel back home anymore. And they lament that they're sorry that they couldn't vote. They still wanted to vote. And I think number three, I think as mentioned before, is how present COMELEC and active COMELEC is in announcing its regulations, announcing its policies, and dealing out these show cause orders to candidates that are reportedly violating some of its laws. But I think that leads to my last point, which is the fourth point, how hard it is to institutionalize and enforce these regulations, because I think we can see, and we heard lots of reports, but many of these reports are being processed way over past the election day itself. And I think that's a great challenge that the innovative, the electoral system here that needs to further refine.
Yes.
So John, my key takeaways would be with regards to the voter behavior. Because that is what my specialization is.
Okay.
So I'll start with, I saw, and it's obviously based on the observation, my observation in the 3 regions that I was in. And it might not be true to the other parts of the country. So firstly was guided voters. I did see, and which is worrying, I did see a substantial proportion of young voters who were guided voters. So many of them reported that while deciding who to vote for, they're going to maybe speak to the barangay head or speak to the family members. And they were not interested in politics, but they were interested in voting, which is a good thing. But then I think it only makes a difference if they are independent voters. Just to voting for the sake of it is meaningless till the time they're not voting by their own choice. So yes, guided voters, a substantial number, definitely. Then also with regards to women, because I did see a lot of active participation of women, whether it was campaign, rallies, meeting. Women outnumbered men. But when it comes to representation, you don't see that. And you obviously can't be what you can't see.
Yes.
So we need to have more, country needs to have more women leaders in order for women to be, but definitely women outnumbered men with regards to political participation. And also this thing, there's a lot spoken about campaign and how parties are spending so much on campaign and how important it is. They go all way out for their planning their campaign strategy. But what I realized was that campaigns, at least in the region I was allotted, didn't really make a difference because most of them were early voters. So that they had decided their, who they are going to vote much before the elections. So they're spending so much on campaign and everything. I don't think so. There was, I don't think the proportion of late minute deciders was very small. So campaign, I don't think really makes a difference. Made a difference at least to the part I was allotted. And what else? And also just acceptance of like family politics. Like people are just okay of voting the same party, same candidate over and again, and they're just okay with it. And also with regards to vote buying, they've just accepted that this happens. This is wrong. We don't approve of it, but this happens. And I don't know what the Comlink rule says, whether, if somebody reports vote buying, is it kept anonymous? Because I think it should be kept anonymous, and then that is when more reporting will be done. Yes, so these will be my opinions.
Yes, for me, I think to reflect on this observation, one of the things that I very much love to see happen in Thailand is that the teacher are the electoral board, because they have to do the very dedicated job, all these steps really, and they have handbook, manual to go on one by one.
Yes.
If normal people, they just group, they will not just strictly to each step. But the teacher, I think they did the work very delicately, very carefully, and very commitment, from 4 in the morning until 10 in the evening. So I think there's a very interesting choice that they ask teacher to help, not like what happened in Thailand. And they not allow teacher in certain area. If the teacher work in this school, in this house, they are not allowed to be placed for their work, but they have to move to another places. That is, I think, it's a very interesting how to have the very dedicated EB, electoral boarding, and also in the certain place that not influence to the people. The certain thing that I will concern about the secret of the ballot, the vote. In one way, we observe that there's no secret. No. Meaning, you can when you feeding the ballot, and when you and there's a screen showing,
Yes.
and even in some places during the voting, you cannot really observe if you like to be observed. So, but in another way around, I think it also shows that people are not concerned about the secret of the vote, meaning that they may not concern whom their vote is going to be secret or not, because they will vote what they want. Whoever determine is not matter, or they are not fear of that the one giving their money will watch through and control their voting. I think in general people are not much. They just vote what they want to vote, and I support with our colleagues here that they have a certain freedom that people already decide, make up their mind. So I think this concept of secret vote, I think that to prevent vote buying, I think now it's no more the point, because they like to vote what they want, which is very important. This is the meaning of the free voting. And I think you have it more encouraging to lessen the influence of vote buying. I think, yeah, PTCR we try to advocate the concept of not vote to one who give you the money, not vote for one who the party that give the money. But I think to further elaboration, in Thailand, I just reflect not only my experience in Thailand or in another place, but also during our discussion, exchange idea viewpoint with several stakeholders that I interviewed them. I came up with this reflection that actually buying vote is a kind of tax return.
Tax return. Okay.
It's a tax return, right?
Can you explain on why it is a tax return?
It's a tax return because in general, every day we pay for
Taxes.
drinking, electricity, or all way tax is given to the government. And now we are election people to be in power. And they give us the money. And usually sometimes they are the one who is already in power. And they make the corruption. Of where they have to take return of the money that given to the vote. So when they are in power, they take return. So now it's over. What the time to take return also of the people who using tax money, through the way of take return when they be power. So now we take return when we have chance. I think that is the way encounter. I don't know. Just thinking, this is actually can be the tax return also. So we pay tax, and now in the time that we take the tax return from these tax people, I don't know whether it makes sense or not, but that is what we try to do in Thailand to make it very clear understanding that everyone who corrupt during election vote, they are certainly will be corrupt when they are in power. So, but I'm not promoting that we should be corrupt.
Yes, no to corruption.
No to corruption. But I understand that in certain level of situation. So how to encounter this maybe to try to encourage mindset to share the mindset of people little by little. In somehow in certain context, to use some certain way and strategy way. Introduce to stimulate thinking. But there is another thing that I also learned. I agree that ACM, automated counting machine, is very important. But to improve it, it's very, I think it's very functional well, it's very effective. It saves time, and in the future it will save a lot of cost also if it be used in the long run. But have to be how to make it trustful, to make it to make people believe in it. Now people in Philippines believe in it, but people in Thailand you have certain doubt because of trust with internet or online, the
Yes.
data can be hacked or
Mhm.
corrupt. I don't know. So I think at least Philippine here has improved and upgrading of this voting process. And I think another country should also learn, especially people in Thailand should learn how you are working on this upgrade level of the procedure.
Okay. Before I go to my last question, I would say again that vote buying is an election offense, that the COMELEC has a committee on Contra Daya. So if you have seen instances of vote buying, you can report to the committee on Contra Daya for that. Yes. So for my last question, I'm not sure if we still have time for the closing segment, but for my last question, as election observers, if we are to explain to people the value of observing elections, why do you think it's important that observers monitor the processes of elections in any country? It's like, why is election observation important? Let's start with Bernie this time.
Okay, I'll give a milquetoast answer of two fronts. The first one, everybody would tend to agree, transparency. We want transparency from within the country, so there are set up for domestic observers and international accountability to the international community that generally agree upon a set of universal values here of good governance. Transparency is part of that good governance. Transparency leads to more accountability here. So we want international observer here to see how things are done. And of course, that leads to the second part would be learning experiences. Democratic systems, electoral systems, these are very modern creations since after the second, since around the 18th century that get popularized and then spread throughout the world after the Second World War and throughout the Cold War. I would say, at least in the grand span of human history, it is still a new thing. And we are still trying to refine the system. We're still trying to find which way is the best way to do things. And I think for local politics, that's part of our job as election observers to also understand local context, cultural context. Because not every system can be just plugged up and transplanted to another system and expect it to work. A lot of times it doesn't. A lot of times you need to inculcate, cultivate that democratic culture and that, I would say, sense of civil responsibility in people. And I think with observers, we can, like what the work ANFREL is doing, can help and we can provide more insight from an international context and perhaps with through discourse, discussion, we can help to refine the system into something better.
I completely agree with what Ernie had to say. But along with transparency and accountability, maybe also to ensure that it's an inclusive election where all people from all walks of life, all demography equally participate in the election process. And also there's room for improvement, so we can also suggest key areas where improvements can be done. And not just observation, I'll specifically focus on international election observers because we don't have a bias. When we come to this country, we don't come with any biasness. We don't support a party, we don't support a candidate. So probably we are giving the most objective opinion on how things are running in the country.
Yes, I think observation is very much important for election process in the sense that it's a way to help balancing the system because election is the major process of democracy, right? Even in some countries they have no democracy, they still have election.
Yes.
And you can study on that. The thing is, how to make people in power to be the representative of the one who won. Why we need because it's democracy, no? Why we need people representative, not a group of people who control the country, running the country.
Yes.
That is a dictatorship. So democracy needs representative from the people to be elected. And how to make this process transparency, to make process be free and fair.
Yes.
Very important we need observation to kind of balancing from the other side that try to dominate or refresh. So I think that's why we need to observe the election. The thing is, if we really want democracy, we need the people in power with governance, with transparency, with capacity. But have you heard the discourse? We are what we eat. Yeah?
Yeah.
If you eat a lot, you will get
Yes.
fat. If you don't eat like you don't eat
I
much.
eat.
You're very strong, very strength, because you are careful with what you select to eat, right? You don't eat fat, you don't eat poisonous food, you don't eat junk food. I think it's the same thing. If people elect or vote who the corrupt,
Yeah.
just to say, the corrupt people, you will have the corrupt government,
Yeah.
right? But people don't see this. That we are what we eat, we are what we do. But if we understand this, and through the observation, we can also introduce this concept, this idea. Observation is a learning process also,
It is.
right? I learning the context of the people here. I learning from my past experience. What is the why vote buying is something wrong. I mean, for the general people, what is something wrong with the vote buying? They don't. But more and more, we're getting more understanding. More and more, because of we observe and we see things is corrupt, not this way, it's illegal this way. So when we find certain illegality, we propose idea, we recommendation for them
Yes.
to. Why don't you do it? Because we also learn from another country that maybe it's a good idea to adapt or adjust. So this through observation. Even if we can do, I think in the future we should do more on monitoring to help this system to be function well. That election can guarantee through the election process that can guarantee good people, good governance. Why we need good governance? Corrupt government, what's wrong with it? I think it can be the question also. What's wrong with the corrupt person? Well, they give me money, it's okay. But we have to, through the observation, we learn also that the country without corrupt government, it gives prosperity, it gives equity, it gives freedom,
Yes.
it gives democracy to the people. The human right is being protected. All these things, but if you have corrupt government, what will happen? In Thailand, we have the corrupt government, I might say.
It's Thailand. You speak about Thailand again.
Yeah, because we have corrupt government, people are poor. Because also only certain group of people control monopoly, the economy, control the wealth. So they are wealthy, but majority of the people are facing difficulty in their life. So I think this is a process of learning, observation from each country to another country. We are learning from each other. We are learning weak point. We are learning strong point, and we share. And this is a way that we improve democracy. We empower democracy
Yes.
in the community of us.
It's good to know. It's very insightful and long.
Thank you.
Tharindu.
Yeah. I think maybe I would like to stress on two things. Either it's international or local domestic observers, citizen observers. Being observers in presence, I think also to some extent you can eliminate the corruption or like the issues. I remember in a couple of places when we go and because we approach to one polling presence, so we greet and then we also ask the permission to observe from the electoral board. So in a couple of occasions, I heard it's in local language, but I get the sense. So the chairman say, "Oh, there's an observer here to the people around, right?" So I mean, like that, either it can be a stationer observer, a citizen observer in the room. So they have the sense of someone is watching you. So they tend to reduce, like the issues that they make, right? And also, I remember when I went to the first meeting I had with the Comrade, and then the Comrade official they said, "Wow, we welcome you. I really would like to have you because our people will behave well when they know that they are observers on the ground." So that's one of the things. And also the other important thing about observation is the recommendations. As earlier I mentioned also, there's no perfect elections. Always there's a room for improvement. So the recommendations are the ones that we can make the next round of election better, right? But it's also important to be serious about it as all the election stakeholders, because it can be we have many observations and then we have thousands of recommendations, nothing implementing within before the next election. So it's going to be a waste as well. So it's all of the stakeholders' responsibilities also to work towards really be serious about the recommendations that observers make, and that we can make the next round better.
Okay. I am aware of time. We are more than an hour now. We still have the game, but I would say that we might have to skip it.
Yes.
Yes. Nobody wants to play the game. Nobody wants to play the game. But I understand. I have kept you all for quite so long, so I will have to close the show. That has been the podcast episode on the dispatch from the ANFREL International Election Observers deployed for the International Election Observation Mission to the 2025 Philippine national and local elections. As I said earlier, ANFREL will release its interim report tomorrow, May 16, at 9 a.m. in Manila. So this is Manila time. We'll be streaming the event live via our social media pages. We'll see you again tomorrow online. Get the latest news and updates about ANFREL programs and activities through our Facebook, X, LinkedIn, and TikTok pages. You can also subscribe to our YouTube channel and WhatsApp channel. Please subscribe to our YouTube channel. Thank you, P-Job. Thank you, Vibha.
Salamat.
Yeah, salamat. Thank you, Ernie and Tharindu, for joining us today. Salamat. Thank you also to the viewers who are supporting us, who have been supporting the limited podcast series. We hope the discussions are as informative as they are fun. We'll see you in season 2 of the Election Observer podcast. I'm your host, John Antiquera. Have a great day, everyone. Maraming salamat po, Pilipinas. Bye!
Bye.